Qin Lei said. Sun Xiaoxi gasped after reading the email, not because of the accusations, as she had seen plenty of corruption cases, but because of the accused, Chai Lin. The after-sales department was notorious for internal corruption across the industry, and Xinda Group was no exception. At its worst, the department was infamously referred to as a place where nobody lives off their base salary. Sun Xiaoxi had handled numerous cases involving after-sales irregularities. Chai Lin had come up during employee interviews several times, but his record was spotless, clean as a blank sheet of paper, with no trace of misconduct. Her first impression of Chai Lin was that he was overly cautious. He had a lean and sharp appearance, but was timid to the point of paranoia. He would split bills when treated to meals by suppliers and even reported and turned in a Starbucks mooncake gift worth 200 yuan during Mid-Autumn Festival. Under his strict management, the supplier management department was a bastion of transparency. Expenses for team events were publicly accounted for, and even shared lunches were meticulously split. Across the entire group, they were a clean stream. How could someone so careful and upright be accused of extorting subordinates and accepting bribes? Was this slander or something more hidden? Sun Xiaoxi couldn't be certain. Her professional training told her to remain impartial. Investigations had to follow the breadcrumbs in the report, verifying each detail. She instinctively glanced at her mentor, Qin Lei, seated at the head of the conference table. But Qin Lei was busy leaning closer to Yang Miao, the presenter, asking her to enlarge a specific line of text on the projection. Sun Xiaoxi sighed silently, feeling a twinge of jealousy. Recently, Sun Xiaoxi had been in a funk thanks to the arrival of a pretty new graduate in the department. The newcomer, Yang Miao, had taken over Sun Xiaoxi's previous role of reviewing internal whistleblower emails after Sun Xiaoxi was promoted to lead investigator. Yang Miao also now occupied the desk closest to Qin Lei. Yang Miao was truly stunning. There's a difference between being beautiful and being good-looking. Beauty is a visual impact, while good looks evoke an emotional response. Yang Miao, true to her name, had a luminous charm. Her large, expressive eyes seemed to glisten with gentle pools of water. She greeted everyone with a warm smile, and her soft dimples felt like a kitten's paw brushing against people's hearts. In the workplace, a social battleground in its own right, being good-looking gave her an edge. A single glance could open doors, and a little finesse could turn opportunities into achievements. While professionalism was the supposed hallmark of a career, the allure of beauty worked like a spell, dismissed openly, yet secretly coveted. Sun Xiaoxi couldn't deny she envied Yang Miao's looks. Her jealousy reached its peak when she noticed how Qin Lei, who was often curt with her, lowered his voice as if afraid to frighten Yang Miao. But in the adult world, decorum was the bare minimum. No matter how conflicted Sun Xiaoxi felt, she still shared drinks and gossip with Yang Miao at work. Until today. During the department's weekly meeting, Sun Xiaoxi couldn't hide her displeasure. It began when Yang Miao presented a summary of recent whistleblower emails. Qin Lei and the team leaders discussed the case's priorities before assigning investigation tasks. A routine job, yet Qin Lei suddenly noticed Yang Miao's document layout and asked, "What's this at the bottom?" Yang Miao had added colorful markers to categorize tasks, making it easier for team leaders to locate their assignments and compare with others. Caught off guard, Yang Miao flushed slightly but explained, "Oh, this is my design. It's a quick reference guide for everyone." Qin Lei gave a faint and nodded. "Good work," he said, before returning to the discussion. That brief public praise lit up Yang Miao's face. Her cheerful demeanor earned silent thumbs-ups from her colleagues under the table. Only Sun Xiaoxi's face darkened. A mix of resentment and frustration surged within her, especially when Qin Lei turned to her and said, "The complaint about the supplier management department doesn't seem too complicated. Xiaoxi, you handle this one." In that moment, Sun Xiaoxi snapped. "You think it's not complicated just because you say so?" The room fell silent. From under the table, Ren Ling, the head of the confidentiality group, kicked her sharply, snapping her out of her daze. Realizing her mistake, Sun Xiaoxi broke out in a cold sweat as she saw Qin Lei's furrowed brow and pursed lips. Desperate, she blurted. "Well, this isn't exactly your group's forte, is it, Ren? You keep saying it's easy, but that's rich coming from someone not doing the work." Ren Lang's expression morphed from confusion to shock, then resignation. "Fine," he muttered. "I shouldn't have commented." Under the table, Sun Xiaoxi muttered a quiet apology in her head. "Sorry, Ren. Desperate times call for desperate measures." After the meeting, Ren Lang waited until Qin Lei and the others were far away before approaching Sun Xiaoxi at her desk. With a magnanimous smile, he patted her on the shoulder. "Don't be upset. I know that Cloud Documents notes were your work. I saw them on your computer back then. You must have handed it over to Yang Miao during the job transition, right?" Sun Xiaoxi kept her head low, staring at the whistleblower email without responding. Silence was her only defense when someone hit a nerve. When she first joined the company last year, fresh out of college, she held the same position Yang Miao now occupied, managing whistleblower emails, taking meeting minutes, and drafting department announcements. Initially, she dutifully followed the meeting minute templates. However, she noticed that team leaders often had to rewrite their plans after each meeting. To streamline this, she designed a team memo template and saved it on her computer. While taking meeting notes, she also categorized tasks assigned by Qin Lei and privately sent them to the respective team leaders. When transitioning the job to Yang Miao, she handed over this little tool as part of the process. What she didn't expect was for Yang Miao to give the template a vibrant makeover and casually attach it to the end of the department meeting minutes, accidentally putting it in Qin Lei's line of sight. The moment Sun Xiaoxi saw that template, her breath caught. Was she upset? Of course. But ultimately, it was her who stumbled during the department meeting. Now, sitting at her desk, the flames of her earlier anger had cooled, replaced by a flicker of regret over her impulsive outburst. Her eyes fell back on the words Supplier Management Department displayed on her computer screen, sparking an unexplainable determination. As long as I do my job well, I'll be noticed, right? With renewed focus, Sun Xiaoxi quickly divided tasks among the team. The case against Chai Lin appeared relatively straightforward, so the project team consisted of 4 members, Sun Xiaoxi and 3 newcomers. One was tasked with contacting finance to retrieve records of Chai Lin's past dealings with service providers. Another would work with IT to extract internal chat logs from the Supplier Management Department. Meanwhile, Sun Xiaoxi decided to lead the overall investigation and personally visit Chai Lin with another team member. Chai Lin appeared just as Sun Xiaoxi remembered, tall, thin, serious, and reserved. He always maintained a slight backward tilt when speaking, creating a sense of distance. What surprised her, though, was his lack of reaction to the accusations. The after-sales business started early, with plenty of regional outsourcing and gray income streams. Internal dynamics are tangled, and it's easy to offend the wrong people. I'm no fortune teller. It's not surprising if a decision I made upset someone and led to this report. Sun Xiaoxi nodded. What's your response to the contents of the report? Chai Lin shook his head expressionlessly. It's all nonsense. Sun Xiaoxi pressed on. Do you have any idea who might have filed the complaint? Chai Lin's head shake was even more decisive. No idea. No idea? None at all. She couldn't believe it. Chai Lin's round eyes narrowed slightly, as if resting, though a sharp glint flickered within them. I treat all employees and service providers equally. No favoritism, no cliques. If the internal audit department wants to investigate, I'll fully cooperate. Whatever evidence you need, I'll provide. But as for guessing the whistleblower, I have no clue. I haven't done what's alleged. How am I supposed to guess? I can't just throw out a name and get someone into trouble, can I? Sun Xiaoxi realized she had hit a wall. Chai Lin seemed cooperative on the surface, but was frustratingly tight-lipped, repeating himself in a polished loop that ultimately boiled down to, I don't know. He was even more cautious and composed than she'd imagined, well-versed in the routines of internal audits. Every question she posed had been anticipated and deflected. Returning empty-handed, Sun Xiaoxi redirected her efforts toward collecting evidence from external sources. The project team worked tirelessly for a week, and Sun Xiaoxi finally managed to compile all the evidence just in time for the weekly meeting. She arrived early at the conference room, staring intently at her computer screen, rehearsing her presentation mentally, carefully weighing every word as she waited for Qin Lei to arrive. But to her surprise, the first person through the door with a soft click of the lock was Yang Miao. Her hands were full, holding several large Starbucks bags. She nudged the door open with her shoulder, twisting her slim waist, and greeted the room with a sweet smile. Good news! The funds from the finance department's major case have been recovered. And to thank the internal audit department for its critical role during the investigation, finance is treating the whole department to coffee. Qin Lei followed behind her, his face as expressionless as ever. But if one looked closely, a faint trace of uncontainable joy flickered across his brow. Seeing him enter, Yang Miao paused in the middle of distributing the coffee and raised her cup in his direction, her smile turning even sweeter. Thanks, Brother Lei. The typically composed and reserved employees of the internal audit department couldn't help but be infected by Yang Miao's cheerful demeanor. Following her lead, they raised their coffee cups toward Qin Lei and joked, "Thanks, boss." Holding her cup, Sun Xiaoxi's fingers twitched slightly, but never lifted her cup in the end. This little interlude was like a sharp pair of scissors slicing through her meticulously prepared train of thought, leaving her mind in a chaotic tangle. When it came time for her to report on the case, Qin Lei interrupted her several times with pointed questions about her presentation. You mentioned that you conducted surprise surveys on 5 service providers. What were their responses? Sun Xiaoxi replied, the 5 service providers' feedback was remarkably consistent. Chai Lin is a very honest, serious, and impartial business leader. We couldn't obtain any useful information related to the allegations in the whistleblower email. Qin Lei pressed further, and what criteria did you use to select these 5 service providers? She explained, 1 is the core provider at the group headquarters location, 2 are large-scale providers from other provinces, and 2 had filed records of offering gifts to Chai Lin in the past. Qin Lei pursed his lips as he reviewed her report on the screen, a subtle gesture that Sun Xiaoxi knew all too well indicated his displeasure. Sure enough, he shook his head in the next moment. The core provider at headquarters is a strategic partner introduced by the CEO's office. In other words, it's Chai Lin's boss's boss who brought them in. There's no way Chai Lin, as a mere business director, would dare interfere with that. As for the 2 with reported gift-giving records, it's clear those are the ones Chai Lin wanted to distance himself from. Why else would he make such a fuss over a few thousand yuan in gifts? The only ones where you might have had a shot are the 2 out-of-province providers. But our offline business spans 80 core service providers across 27 provincial branches, not to mention the smaller providers in remote towns. Selecting 2 out of 80 is a long shot, so it's no surprise you came up empty-handed. Sun Xiaoxi couldn't respond, her right hand gripping her pen tightly enough to leave a visible indent on the paper. Qin Lei didn't notice these details, his attention shifting to another part of her report. What about the accusations of Chai Lin withholding employee wages or demanding kickbacks? What did your investigation find? She reported, we questioned Chai Lin directly about the allegations, and he denied everything in the email. He voluntarily provided chat logs and transaction records from the supplier management department's group chats. From these, it's clear that he's highly compliance conscious. To avoid any appearance of soliciting or accepting bribes, he even pays up front for department team-building events out of his own pocket. Only after the event does the department assistant post detailed expense reports and receipts in the group chat before initiating a group reimbursement collection. Qin Lei couldn't help but click his tongue. To go to such lengths, impressive. The supplier management department has always been a hotbed for corruption, but it seems he's determined to maintain a spotless record, even if it means being criticized as overly cautious or eccentric. He looked up at her. So, what's your conclusion after a week of investigation? that the whistleblower's claims are false and Chai Lin is being framed. Sun Xiaoxi avoided answering directly. We did find something unusual. There's the service provider in Bing province, Yunzhong. That stands out. Qin Lei raised an eyebrow. How so? She explained methodically. Yunzhong became a partner 6 months after Chai Lin took office. Over the past 2 years, they've rapidly expanded their after-sales network, establishing a dominant position in 3 prefecture-level cities and surrounding counties. While this coincided with the group's booming offline business, their financial records are puzzling. Yunzhong has consistently posted losses for 3 consecutive years. The more outlets they open, the more they lose. Although the supplier management department granted them substantial subsidies and preferential policies, these were a drop in the bucket compared to the costs of their rapid expansion. She looked directly at Qin Lei. It's understandable for a company to incur losses during its initial investment phase. But if the losses continue to grow year after year, why would they persist? Qin Lei nodded thoughtfully, saying nothing. Sun Xiaoxi continued. There's another point that strikes me as odd. The frequency of the supplier management department's team-building events. Take our internal audit department, for example. Due to the nature of our work, it's often hard to gather everyone. In my year here, we've only had 2 formal team-building events. Other departments usually have 1 per quarter, or at most, monthly if their budgets allow. But according to the group collection records Chai Lin provided, the supplier management department held team-building dinners as frequently as 3 times in a single month. She hesitated, glancing nervously at Qin Lei. Chai Lin claims he organizes these events because his wife and child live in another city, leaving him bored during off hours. But the frequency does seem excessive. Qin Lei's expression showed a rare hint of approval. What's your next step in the investigation? Sun Xiaoxi faltered, hesitation clouding her gaze. I haven't decided yet. Haven't decided? Qin Lei's voice rose. Sun Xiaoxi, if you haven't figured it out, what's the point of this report? Even suggesting you spend 2 days at a county-level after-sales branch would be better than telling me you have no plan, right? Sun Xiaoxi was the last to leave the meeting room. Ahead of her, not far away, Yang Miao was cheerfully organizing a group photo with everyone holding their coffees. This is my first time witnessing such an exciting event. Let's take a picture together, Yang Miao suggested enthusiastically. Her radiant smile was contagious, and soon the team happily crowded around her lens. Someone called out to Sun Xiaoxi, urging her to join, but she hastily raised her phone to her ear, pretending to be on a call. Only a few steps apart, there were 2 entirely different worlds, one filled with jubilation, and the other shrouded in gloom. Busy with her phone, Sun Xiaoxi couldn't help but steal glances at the cheerful crowd. Her gaze lingered until Yang Miao showed the photos to Qin Lei, holding them right under his nose. At last, Sun Xiaoxi lowered her eyes. She sent a message to Qin Lei on WeChat. Master, I request to travel for fieldwork. I've made up my mind. I'll go to the county-level service centers and investigate on-site. The 5-hour high-speed train ride to Bing province was an emotional journey for Sun Xiaoxi, who spent most of it crying. She couldn't quite pinpoint her grievance. Qin Lei had scolded her before, and while she used to feel afraid, she never felt wronged. But now, with the stark contrast between her mentor's warm demeanor toward Yang Miao and his sharp criticism of her sense of injustice ballooned uncontrollably, spilling over as tears. Arriving at Lu County, she disembarked from the train with tear-streaked cheeks, only to be greeted by a dusty wind that made her look even more disheveled. Squinting against the wind and dust, she stood at the small, bleak county train station, feeling a pang of heroic desolation, as if she were marching to an irreversible fate. Her choice of Lu County as a destination wasn't arbitrary. Nuda had only one local service partner here, Yunzhong, which operated 3 after-sales service points. If she wanted to uncover the truth about Yunzhong's financial performance in lower-tier markets, this was an excellent place to start. Her first stop was the most profitable nudist store in the county. Yet, just a few steps away from the store, She paused, looked at the row of shop signs, and changed direction. To truly understand an after-sales network, the best place to start is with a competitor's store. Nuda specialized in digital products, so she confidently walked into an authorized store for a competing brand. The staff eagerly greeted her. Sun Xiaoxi pretended to browse and mentioned she wanted to buy a smart Bluetooth speaker for her parents. The clerk extolled the virtues of their product, and Sun Xiaoxi nodded along as if impressed. Then, she asked casually, "My friends recommended Nuda's speaker, saying it's the best-selling one. How does yours compare?" The clerk sneered. "Nuda? Clearly, you've never used a smart speaker before. If you had, you wouldn't say that." "Why not?" Sun Xiaoxi feigned confusion. "My friend told me Nuda has excellent after-sales service. For example, they offer a 3-year warranty extension for just 29 yuan. Isn't that better than a 1-year warranty?" The clerk's disdain became more apparent. He gave her a once-over before saying, "You're not local, are you? Judging by your outfit, you must be from a big city visiting family. I'll be honest. If you were buying for use in Beijing or Shanghai, maybe Nuda's after-sales service would be decent. But here in Lu County, forget it. Their reputation here is terrible." Sun Xiaoxi's heart skipped a beat, a breakthrough. Feigning naivety, she pulled up the map on her phone, pointing at the service locations. "Really? But look, Nuda has so many service centers here. They seem really convenient. This one is just a bike ride away." Perhaps tired of arguing or eager to move on to other customers, the clerk replied dismissively, "I could say more, but that'd just sound like I'm bad-mouthing them. It's close by. Why don't you go check it out yourself?" Lu County was small, and with no shared bikes available, Sun Xiaoxi decided to walk. After 3 turns and 2 pedestrian streets, she arrived at the supposed service center, only to stop in stunned disbelief. The location marked on her map? It didn't exist. Instead, she found herself standing before a typical mom-and-pop shop. It had no proper signage, no standardized decor, and even sold products from other brands. Behind the glass counter sat a middle-aged, bald man, lazily fanning himself. He gave her a slow once-over before asking, "What are you looking for?" "A new phone." Prepared, Sun Xiaoxi replied, "I bought a Nuda speaker, and it broke within the warranty. I came here for repairs." The man glanced at her, then gestured lazily with his fan toward another direction. "Can't fix it here. Go to the service center near Wanda Plaza or call the 400 hotline to send it in." Sun Xiaoxi pretended to misunderstand, looking puzzled. "Wait, isn't this a Nuda service center? Why can't you fix it?" The man, visibly annoyed now, snapped. "Can't means can't. Go to Wanda or call the hotline. Do you understand human language or not?" Startled by his aggression, Sun Xiaoxi clutched her bag strap and scurried away like a frightened deer. 2 streets later, she ducked into a KFC to catch her breath. But as soon as she sat down, her expression changed. The fear and confusion vanished, replaced by cool determination. Quickly pulling out her laptop, she reviewed her earlier files and initiated a video meeting with her 3 teammates. "If possible, pack tonight and head out immediately," she instructed. "We need to visit Yunzhong's service centers in the 3 cities where they operate most extensively. Check everything." "So," Qinlei looked up from the projection and glanced at Sun Xiaoxi. "Are you saying that Yunzhong is opening fake stores?" Sun Xiaoxi nodded seriously. "In the 4 regions we investigated covertly, there are a total of 7 fake stores like Yunzhong's. Yunzhong's method is to do minimal renovations at the fake store location, take a lot of photos, apply for online location information on major map platforms, and then sublet the fake store to others. At the same time, they periodically upload the photos of the stores they've stored to review platforms like Dianping, creating the illusion of normal operation during headquarters spot checks. Through this method, they have fraudulently obtained a large amount of renovation subsidies from Xinda, as well as subsidies for newly opened stores during their initial phase. Our rough estimate shows that they have profited over 1 million yuan from this." This explains why Yunjong prefers county and town markets and only operates after-sales service outlets instead of full-service stores, because the cost of temporarily setting up a fake after-sales maintenance outlet in counties and towns is low, and the secrecy is strong. As long as they maintain a good relationship with local pre-sale stores, the likelihood of being caught is very small. It also explains why Yunjong opens stores that lose money, but is still eager to open more. Qinlei raised an eyebrow at Sun Xiaoxi. So, your initial guess was correct. But how can we determine that these activities are directly related to Cailin, and not just Yunjong exploiting the loopholes in the Service Provider Management Department's system for profit? Sun Xiaoxi switched to another slide on the presentation. I've been thinking about this too. I didn't find any clues in Yunjong's accounts, so I tried a different approach. I decided to start from Yunjong and look for the whistleblower within the Service Provider Management Department. Qinlei narrowed his eyes. Sun Xiaoxi knew that this slight expression meant he was listening carefully while also thinking. Sun Xiaoxi continued. I found a detail related to Yunjong in the internal work records of the Service Provider Management Department. In the first quarter of this year, Yunjong was flagged for a downgrade due to failing spot checks and poor customer satisfaction scores, a suggestion made by an employee named Xiao Peng via email. However, the email was approved by Cailin, and after that, Yunjong's case seemed to vanish mysteriously. Meanwhile, Xiao Peng's performance review in the Service Provider Management Department for the first quarter was the lowest. I reasonably suspect that Xiao Peng is the one who wrote the anonymous email. Qinlei asked, Have you spoken to Xiao Peng? Sun Xiaoxi nodded. I spoke to him. He denied it. But I don't think this was a wasted effort. The fake stores Yunjong opened, Cailin's lack of approval, and Xiao Peng's poor performance have all made me confident that our investigation is on the right track. There might really be an issue between Cailin and Yunjong. Moreover, Cailin and Yunjong's local head meet almost every month after the business analysis meetings. They are among the service providers Cailin works with most closely. Qinlei nodded, finally not arguing with her. So, what about the evidence? Sun Xiaoxi lowered her eyelids slightly. Cailin is extremely cautious, so cautious that it's almost pathological. He even applied the same public billing system to his clients. Every time he dines with Yunjong, he pays for the meal, and then Yunjong's people transfer their share back to him. If they transfer too much, he refuses to accept the extra payment. I haven't found any solid evidence to prove that there is financial exchange between him and Yunjong. But Master, Sun Xiaoxi raised her head, give me a bit more time. I think my judgment is right, and I still want to confirm it. Qinlei stared at Sun Xiaoxi for a long while, silent, seemingly pondering in his mind. Finally, he said, All right, keep investigating. It was almost time to get off work, and Sun Xiaoxi was still busy at her desk, not even lifting her head, her eyes barely open. Suddenly, Yang Miao's doe-like eyes appeared outside her cubicle. Xiaoxi, where are you going after work? Is something up? Sun Xiaoxi didn't look up. Yang Miao's tone was filled with barely concealed excitement. The department book club I organized last week won an award at the company union, and Brother Lei said he would treat me to dinner tonight. I thought, since you just got back and probably haven't eaten well after being out there in the field, I wanted to invite you along. Sun Xiaoxi's fingers on the keyboard paused for a moment. But this time, she quickly adjusted herself. When she lifted her head, a smile was already on her face. Really? Just got back, missed the news, and didn't even have a chance to congratulate you. But tonight, I've decided to visit the restaurant where Cailin frequently goes to investigate. I'll probably have dinner there, so I won't be able to join you. But thank you for the invitation. Oh. Yang Miao pouted a bit, feeling disappointed, but she quickly smiled sweetly at Sun Xiaoxi. Well, I won't disturb your work then. We'll arrange for next time. Qinlei and Yang Miao had already left for a while, but their figures kept flashing in Sun Xiaoxi's mind. A vague sense of bitterness rose in her heart. She took a few deep breaths to calm herself. She took a taxi to the Huaihai restaurant. Sun Xiaoxi had organized the department's team-building events and dinner receipts provided by Chai Lin and found that Huaihai restaurant was the most frequently mentioned. She checked online, and the restaurant was of a decent standard, had a good reputation, and wasn't far from Xinda Group's park, so it wasn't surprising that Chai Lin chose it as his base. But Sun Xiaoxi had a strange feeling about the service provider management department's dinners. Although she couldn't make sense of the situation, she still decided to go there personally. However, sitting in the lobby of Huaihai restaurant, looking at the menu handed over by the waiter, Sun Xiaoxi frowned deeply. The menu doesn't look expensive, so how did they manage to rack up bills of several thousand per meal for their team-building events? The waiter standing nearby seemed to be getting a little impatient, thinking she was having trouble deciding, and lightly urged, "Miss, what would you like to order? If you're unsure, I could recommend our signature dishes." Sun Xiaoxi felt a little embarrassed by the waiter's pushiness. Her ears turned red, and she quickly pointed at the menu. "I'll have this." Before she could finish her sentence, a voice interrupted her. "Xiaoxi, what a coincidence you're here too." For some reason, fate seemed to be the only word that came to Sun Xiaoxi's mind at that moment. She took a deep breath, then calmly looked up and smiled at the approaching Yang Miao and Qin Lei. "Master Yang Miao, what a coincidence." Qin Lei's face remained calm, with little emotion, but Yang Miao eagerly walked up, affectionately grabbing Sun Xiaoxi's arm. See, this is fate. I was thinking of inviting Xiaoxi to dinner, and you said you didn't have time, yet here you are at the restaurant I was going to. It turns out the restaurant you were planning to visit is Huaihai restaurant, Yang Miao said cheerfully. Sun Xiaoxi remained silent, glancing at Qin Lei. Qin Lei finally spoke, responding to the situation. "Since we've run into each other, let's eat together." He turned to the waiter. "Do you have a private room?" This was probably the most uncomfortable meal that Sun Xiaoxi had had with Qin Lei since joining the company. She chewed the bamboo shoots in her mouth, deeply experiencing the ancient saying, "Tastes like chewing wax." On one hand, it was because of the atmosphere. She hardly spoke throughout the meal because the entire dinner was controlled by Yang Miao, who seemed to be busy with one thing after another, pouring drinks for Qin Lei, serving dishes for Sun Xiaoxi, occasionally complaining about work, her face glowing with a sweet smile, like a lively and cute little rabbit. It was hard not to feel sympathy. Sun Xiaoxi thought, "Some people are naturally likable, and there's a reason for it. If I were the one making a fuss right now, in Qin Lei's eyes, I'd probably look like a hen that had been pricked in the rear." Sun Xiaoxi felt a burning jealousy, but at the same time, she had to admit it was justifiable. On the other hand, she was concerned about her wallet. After Qin Lei sat down in the private room, the first thing he said was, "Since Xiaoxi is here today, let's have her treat. This promotion dinner for her as a group leader, I've been waiting for it." Sun Xiaoxi was about to graciously agree when, unexpectedly, Qin Lei silently pulled a VIP black card from his wallet, handed it to the waiter, and mysteriously said, "Bring a new menu and order some better dishes." The waiter immediately understood upon seeing the black card, his face lighting up with a smile as he retrieved another menu from the cabinet and respectfully handed it to Qin Lei. Qin Lei gestured to the waiter to stop, then nodded his head towards Sun Xiaoxi, saying, "The host will order." Sun Xiaoxi was confused as she looked at the menu handed over by the waiter. The moment she saw the prices, her vision went black. By the time the meal was almost finished, the stars in her eyes still hadn't disappeared. It was getting late, and even Yang Miao seemed a little sleepy, yawning quietly to herself. At just the right moment, Qin Lei spoke. "All right, it's getting late and we all have work tomorrow. Let's call it a night." Then, turning to Sun Xiaoxi, "Group leader Sun, you can settle the bill." The stars in her eyes reappeared at that moment. She steeled herself and followed the waiter to the cashier, silently cursing Qin Lei's ancestors all the way. Just as she was mentally cursing Qin Lei's great-grandfather, the restaurant owner's wife peeked out from behind the golden fortune cat statue at the cashier. "Total consumption is 1580. After the black card discount, 632. Please pay with the receipt. Huh? How much? Sun Xiaoxi shot up her head, unable to believe her ears. The boss's wife looked her up and down with a puzzled expression, seemingly confirming if she was deaf, and repeated, raising her voice. 632. In RMB. How would you like to pay? Master. Sun Xiaoxi almost barged into the private room, but immediately regretted it as soon as she pushed open the door. Realizing Yang Miao was still there, she quickly stopped herself, wanting to avoid making a scene. But having been too excited, she was still moving too quickly, and her upper body followed the momentum, causing her to crash into the door and stumble straight into the room.
Great.
At that moment, all she could think was, great. But to her surprise, Yang Miao was nowhere to be seen. Instead, Qin Lei sat calmly in his chair, as though waiting for her return. Master, where's Yang Miao? Sun Xiaoxi gestured toward Yang Miao's seat. I told her that your case has been dragging on, and I wanted to take this opportunity to speak with you privately. Qin Lei lazily raised his head. This room is perfect for scolding someone, but it's inconvenient with her here. I asked her to leave. Sun Xiaoxi pressed her lips together, not daring to speak. Qin Lei then asked, What about you? I asked you to treat us to dinner, and you got so worked up about it. Sun Xiaoxi handed over the black card and receipt. I think I've found a way Chailin takes bribes from clients and forces employees to offer tribute. What is it? Qin Lei raised an eyebrow. Dual books, Sun Xiaoxi said. She pulled out her laptop and showed Qin Lei a photo on the screen. The VIP black card menu at Huaihai restaurant lists prices about 3 times higher than the normal ones. When the bill was paid, it was at a 40% discount, but the receipt was at the original price. Let's assume I'm Chailin, and the 3 of us are splitting the bill. I paid 632, but the receipt says 1580. You two should pay me 1053, and I get a profit of 421 just from eating. The service provider management department and Chailin eating together, the bills often reach several thousand, with a bigger difference. Isn't this what we call offering tribute? Qin Lei didn't respond, his eyes following the cursor on the screen, nodding silently. But Sun Xiaoxi's gaze suddenly shifted from the screen to Qin Lei's face, her expression full of suspicion. Master, you got your hands on the VIP black card at Huaihai restaurant, which means you already knew about this. So, why didn't you tell me directly? Also, why did you make me go and settle the bill? Was it just to watch me make a fool of myself? Or, Sun Xiaoxi's previously furrowed brows suddenly relaxed with a small smile. You were trying to remind me, weren't you? There was a mischievous glint in her eyes, a playful joy. Why did you suddenly show up at Huaihai restaurant today? This coincidence is definitely no accident. This is something you said yourself. You invited Yang Miao to dinner, but she insisted on bringing someone else along, and it was you who wanted her to probe me, right? Master, you were trying to help me, weren't you? Qin Lei didn't respond to her rapid-fire questions, only lazily stretched his back and gave a slight sneer. I already warned you, but you were too hot-headed and didn't see it through. What did you warn me about? You should pay more attention to what the leaders say. You never know which one might be useful, Qin Lei said sarcastically, but his eyes were smiling. That meeting memo you did was also a dual book. When I said it was good, you didn't take it seriously and then you didn't use it for the case. Who else can you blame? You knew I wrote that meeting memo? Sun Xiaoxi's eyes widened again. Everything tonight was so confusing that her poor brain cells couldn't keep up anymore. Qin Lei smirked, pulling at his mouth. I've never liked the term female competition. He suddenly said that out of the blue, and Sun Xiaoxi didn't understand. Fortunately, Qin Lei didn't expect her to respond and continued speaking to himself. I think this term is really annoying, like women in the workplace are like chicks at a market, bought and sold based on their appearance. But I admit, beauty does have its use in the workplace. Qin Lei said. However, using beauty effectively in the workplace has 2 prerequisites. Either you have strong tactics or you're flexible enough. Sun Xiaoxi finally understood what he meant, raised her head, and sincerely asked, "Which one do I fit into?" Qin Lei laughed. "You? You'd be better off using your brain more at work." Sun Xiaoxi lowered her head in frustration, but then she heard Qin Lei's voice grow serious. "You've been sitting next to me for half a year, and if I couldn't even tell that those meeting minutes were done by you, then, as your direct leader, especially one in internal controls, I'd be seriously negligent." When I asked that question in the meeting, part of me was trying to see if my new assistant was thorough enough, but another part wanted to see if you could stay calm when dealing with workplace tactics. Sun Xiaoxi, you have a natural sensitivity to violations. I can clearly see that from the Chai-Lin case. It's your talent. But if my apprentice spends all her energy in petty workplace rivalries, as a mentor, I'd be really disappointed. As they walked out of Huaihai restaurant together, Sun Xiaoxi suddenly remembered something. "Master, where did you get the black card for Huaihai restaurant?" At this somewhat naive question, Qin Lei frowned, and with a mysterious gesture, he raised his left index finger to his lips. "Leadership matters. Don't ask questions you shouldn't." Sun Xiaoxi realized her mistake. For Huaihai restaurant to run its yin-yang accounting business, they surely relied on more than just Chai-Lin or even Nuda as clients. The connections behind it were deeply entangled, and it wasn't something Sun Xiaoxi should inquire about. In that moment, she realized that Qin Lei's earlier comment about the meeting minutes was simply playful teasing. How could he know about the manipulated invoices at Huaihai restaurant if the case hadn't even begun? Qin Lei had only suspected something was off after Sun Xiaoxi had already uncovered the issue with Yunzhong and raised the suspicion about the meals. While she had been doing all the hard work, Qin Lei, with his experience in team management, had already noticed the inflated invoice amounts from Huaihai restaurant. But the investigation was Sun Xiaoxi's hard work, and it was her that had tracked down the fake businesses. Qin Lei didn't want to discourage her enthusiasm in public, so he quickly used his connections to get the black card for Huaihai restaurant, encouraged Yang Miao to spy on her schedule, and at the right moment, presented her with a clue. He helped her with the case while preserving her dignity. Qin Lei's car stopped downstairs at Sun Xiaoxi's apartment. After a long silence, just as Sun Xiaoxi opened the door to get out, she looked at Qin Lei's side profile and suddenly gathered the courage to speak. "Master. I'll work hard." The door closed too quickly for Sun Xiaoxi to see his expression, but she vaguely sensed the faintest smile at the corner of his mouth before he stepped on the gas and drove off without looking back. Facing the dual evidence from Yunzhong and Huaihai restaurant, Chai-Lin finally cracked and honestly confessed to the bribe-taking, both inside and outside the company. The group ordered him to return the money he had demanded and dismissed him from his position. With Yunzhong losing its protection, it was also about to face Nuda Group's termination notice and legal summons. Sun Xiaoxi went with a finance team from the service department to Bing province for a round of inspections, conducting a comprehensive review of Yunzhong's after-sales outlets. By the time she returned, more than half a month had passed. The day she returned to work happened to be the monthly meeting. Sun Xiaoxi hurriedly made her way to the conference room, holding her laptop, when she suddenly heard a shout from behind. "Sun Xiaoxi, help me bring these materials over." Sun Xiaoxi quickly turned around and saw Qin Lei standing alone by the computer, taking a call while frantically organizing things. She rushed over, quickly sorted out his things, and held them in her arms. After Qin Lei finished the call, she asked curiously, "Where's Yang Miao? Why didn't you ask her to help you?" After everything that had happened, she had become immune to the name Yang Miao, and the calm confidence she felt when mentioning her surprised even Sun Xiaoxi herself. Qin Lei glanced at her sideways. "She had her probation review last week, and I had a talk with her. I told her that her natural beauty was wasted in the internal audit department. Plus, compared to her predecessor, her work efficiency in this role was quite low. I told her that her strengths would be better used in the key accounts department. If she was willing to transfer, I'd write a recommendation letter for her. She's a smart person, so she agreed immediately." "Oh, Sun Xiaoxi dragged out the sound, trying to hide the smile on her face. But before she could finish smiling, Qin Lei abruptly shoved his laptop into her arms, still frantically taking his call and grumbling. Can HR slow down their hiring process anymore? They might as well wait until I retire before they hire anyone.